All right, it is time for TJRS on Thursday, October 24th. We got the Chicago Bears invading Northwest Stadium and the big game, the big matchup, the big hoodly-doo. With that and a whole lot more, here's Riggo.
Okay, Todd, thank you. Listen, it's really getting into, Halloween. I'm shocked today when I went outside. Don't ask me why. It couldn't have been 24 hours. But easily in the last week, it seems to me the leaves have just started coming off and everything's turned. I've seen the trees are turning yellow and red and all the different colors. It's so shocking because it seems like it's gone so quickly. But actually, when you think about it, I'm guessing, up on Skyline Drive, you're getting close to peak, I think, but I don't know. Just based on what I'm seeing around here, it can't be very far off in the next 10 days.
Well, it's doesn't it seem kind of late to you? I heard a report early on.
Well, maybe that, but it is happening, and it seems like it really jumped ahead.
You
this
were
past
dressed
week.
for the part. I mean, you got your Halloween hunters orange.
Well, listen, let me stop you there when it comes to Halloween because I looked in the mirror this morning, Todd, and I apologize. I hope this camera isn't sensitive enough, but I got eyebrows like Andy Rooney, and I got. The hair in my ears is like the wolf man. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like I'm getting in the Halloween stage a week early. I don't know what's going on with that.
Nice mask,
huh? It is. If nothing else, I got to shave my face. It's kind of like the guys that that have the big. I saw a couple guys have big full beard and they don't have any hair, and I'm always, I guess. And I'm getting, I soon will, but I don't have much of a beard because I'm getting all this hair in my ears and my eyebrows and my nose. But the hair's falling out up here. It's like, this ain't good. What's going to happen?
It's cruel stuff, man. It's cruel.
Oh, I thought you said cool, and I'm going, well, I guess that's one way of looking at it. But anyway, listen, I had a major breakthrough. I think it was last night or yesterday, actually. Unknowns to you, my fridge, my beloved Tralson that I bought, I think back in 1996, I think. It's almost 30 years old. Just shy, 28 years old, the same age as my daughter. About 5 years ago, it's a dual, it's one of those, at the time when I bought this thing, this was back, and, I was living in New York. I went down there into the Bowery where all the, restaurant equipment is. There's all kinds of it down there. Found a guy down there, he sold, and it was, at the time, I don't think they they still make commercial refrigeration, but they were probably at, what car make do you want to use? Cadillac, Mercedes,
it was the Cadillac
Rolls. They were of the refrigerators.
Or our boy,
right?
It's got a glass Epitome.
Well, you've seen it's got a glass door. I mean, it's all trick. At least it was 30 years ago.
It is slick.
And that back then that fridge cost over $4,000. So now all of a sudden it's like my dad when he used to tell me hamburger was 5 cents a pound when he was a kid, and you're going, you couldn't be 5 cents a pound now. It's like you find out the new price. That refrigerator back then seemed like a lot of money, which it was, but that's 30 years ago.
Was it $16K now?
Yeah, I was going to say you're definitely you're in 5 digits, and it just depends on how far you want to go. Somewhere between 10 and 20. I mean, but once again, we're talking about top flight refrigerators, right?
It is the Cadillac. I'll go with Cadillac when Cadillac was numero uno.
Yeah, well, and it's American made, so we'll stick with Detroit. But anyway, so as you well know, LM, that's my lovely wife, is the what do you call it? The business manager and the comptroller of John Riggins. She's actually my Colonel Tom Parker. You know what I'm saying? Which I did a little research on him today. And do you realize the Colonel was getting 50% of the action off of Elvis?
It was good to be the Colonel. The Colonel was one slick operator.
Oh my God! But he ended up destitute.
One slick operator.
He blew his. He's a big gambler, I guess.
Yeah.
Had gambling debts, whatever. But can you imagine how much money that man pulled off of Elvis? I mean, it's unheard of, 50%. But you already knew that.
Yeah.
All right. That was news to me.
Yeah. He was one slick cookie.
But anyway, so we're looking at the refrigerator, and of course, the business manager looks at the refrigerator, and I'm the chef, right? I've done all the cooking for 30 years, and you'd kind of think that there would be a little sensitivity I've got the Grizzly, the Montague Grizzly, which is a professional, 20,000 BTUs a burner, and I think it's $40,000 for the stove, 40,000 BTUs for the stove. I mean, it's commercial, Listen, I'm not going to pretend that I'm that guy. I'm not a chef, really. But I enjoy cooking only when I'm hungry. I'll admit that.
You are a hell of a chef.
If I'm ever full, you don't want me to be your cook because I don't care. But if I'm hungry, I get after it. So anyway, that's my corner of the house, is the kitchen for the most part. Do you think I get to put stuff where I think I would like it? No, I end up, because I tell LM, no, that actually goes. Then I realize, okay, it goes over there. It's just I give up.
John, come on, you're the worker bee. She's gonna let you.
Exactly. So here you're up against, and it's how would you say this? It's literally like the old saying, you're pulling teeth for her. She's got in mind, they had three models. There's the classic, there's the designer, and there's the pro, okay? The classic and designer are lower level, and the pro is what it is. It's the pro. It is the top of the mountain. So, naturally, that's what I want, because that's basically what it's replacing. It's the same thing.
You can't take a step down.
Well, here's what saved me, basically. I procrastinated, which I didn't really do it by accident. Lisa Marie's out of town, so I was able to go and look at I went to a couple of different, Lisa Marie and I went to a couple of different, showrooms. They never did have the pro, though. They had like the classic and they had the designer, but there's a lot of stuff involved with that, because now your measurements have to really be exacting, because they're built-ins, and when they basically go into brand new homes. Mm-hmm. They're not retrofitted, because in a brand new home, then exactly the size that opening that refrigerator fits in, and I mean, like you can't get a fingernail between.
Right.
So very exacting. So we were going to have to, the opening we have for the refrigerator that we have, the Trolson, is not, I don't think it's tall enough, and it's not plumb, of all things, which I've known for years, really, but just it is what it is. But anyway, so it was kind of looking like we might have to do some major construction. When I say major, get in and tearing up the kitchen and all that stuff, so I kind of relayed that to the comptroller, and somehow I got him to thinking, and I think it's a matter of, the delay. Also, it gets to where my wife is very impulsive. When she sees something, I'm an optimizer, and theoretically, it could take me 6 months to buy this.
You like the research.
But the old fridge is dying a slow death, and it's getting to the point where it's actually almost warmer in the garage in the morning than it is in that refrigerator. But anyway, so we're getting down, and finally, like I said, because of all this drawn out stuff, finally Lisa Marie will just go, go ahead and get that. If that's what you want, get it. It's just like, finally.
You got your permission slip.
Yeah, but actually, and part of it was really the fact that we were going to have to do construction work.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it thinking, I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do this without this becoming a major deal. Like pulling off a bunch of drywall and stuff.
You don't need all that.
I don't think she needs. I'm saying for a couple, $3,000-$4,000 more. I'm sorry. I think I've got a sock around the house someplace. I'll pull a few bills out. I got it squirreled away.
Some gold coins.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like, that I had for years. And I think years ago I sold some guns that I had. And it was like, okay, this is my money. I mean, even though I suppose a divorce lawyer would say, no, those are marital assets right there. But I brought them into, but you commingled them with some, I don't know. Anyway, I'm a happy guy. I'm getting my fridge. And just a matter of tomorrow, I'm going to run out and actually physically look at the fridge one more time, because I don't want this to happen. Get it all laid out. You got your refrigerator, your dream, so to speak. You get home, and guess what? It don't fit. It's like, oh, now what am I going to do?
Yeah.
That's when somebody's going to have their like, what in the hell did you tell me about the fit? And we
don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
You do not
anyway,
want that.
This looks like a good time to hand this over to our guy at WTOP.
We're going to check in with our guy George Wallace and talk about the matchup here, Commanders and the Chicago Bears, 4:25 on Sunday. All right, John, as advertised, let's bring in George Wallace, WTOP sports director and the Commanders beat reporter. Big game, big day, Sunday, 4:25. You got the big crew, John. Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders. You got Jim Nance and Tony Romo.
Really?
You got the big CBS doings.
I'll be darned. Well, George, welcome to the show again. Good to see you, as always.
Thanks for having
George.
me.
Let's get down to brass tacks. Tell us about the quarterback controversy. Got to start it somewhere. I mean, he played so well when he came in. Let's just assume that the other guy's out. Number 5, Weeb Eubank never used to mention anybody's name. He'd call him by the number, whatever your number was. If he was referring to me, he'd say 44.
Even 12?
Even 12.
Wow.
Well, he might have just said Joe. That's foregone conclusion.
You didn't call him Broadway Joe?
I don't think it was that formal. Anyway, I'm obviously tongue in cheek here, but it always presents itself if Mariota plays exceptionally well against Chicago. I mean, it's a limited time offer, you might say, but it always in your back of your mind going, wow, they really coming around. But I don't think there'll be any hesitance to put number 5 back in the game as soon as he's out. First of all, let's start with that. What do you know about his injury?
I know that it is, look, he's telling everybody he wants to play, and he can't wait to play, and there's no shock there because he came back on the sideline the other day. He's waving to the crowd. He looked fine. But the fact that from what I've asked a couple people about, and you may know too, I don't know, bruised ribs and broken ribs, it's still painful, very painful, even if it's bruised. So if he's not able to throw the football until Friday or Saturday, I don't know if I'd risk putting him out there. But he wants to play, and right now it's Mariota taking all the reps with the ones, and players have said that how prepared he is. And we saw that Sunday after the game. I mean, he came in there, he stays after practice, he does all the hard work, and he knows he can play this game. So I think players feel very comfortable with him if he has to play, and they mentioned that after the game Sunday. You're mentioning it yesterday. So I think they're going to be very, very cautious with Daniels, and they should. This is a long-term deal. Yes, you want to play against Caleb Williams, and CBS is going to be upset, fine. But you're 5-2 right now, and you're in a pretty good position in the division. You do not want to have him go out there. He's one – I mean, I get it. Everybody's one hit away from a big-time injury. But if there's any hesitance – with this rib injury, you keep him out. But I know he wants to play, and we'll see if he can throw the football Friday or Saturday. Then they'll make the decision.
Yeah, in the old days, see, if it's a rib, more than likely they would have just shot you with some Novocaine or whatever they would have used, xylocaine, and you'd have went and played because but it could be, the one thing is, though, then it becomes a chronic problem. Then all of a sudden you're shooting at every game because it won't heal. So, yeah, like you said, George, they'd be fools to let him play and risk a long-term absence because he's still learning. I mean, in other words, and I'm sure that's part of the process. You get into a rhythm and you want to continue it. You don't want, it's like, when I used to play, you'd be getting the ball and you're making yards. You don't want to go for a couple, like 5 or 6 pass plays, and then all of a sudden you get the ball because all of a sudden you kind of lose your mojo a little bit. But that's good to know. And the other thing that I noticed is that, and what I read about it was, it seemed like the team really responded to Mariota, knowing that, that the other guy was really the leader. And everything I've heard about him is he is a good community guy, and he's super smart. I heard that this morning from somebody that knows because they're out there amongst them, but an employee of the team.
That's Joe Gibbs material right there.
Yeah. I'm thinking. I mean, I don't know if he goes to church on Sunday, but good community guy. I mean, if it wasn't for the community guy stuff, I could have been one of those guys. I don't have it in me, George. I'm not a good community guy. I'm always looking out for old number one. Hell with the community.
George, you find it fascinating. They're not saying really much about this injury. They really haven't given any description or anything that I've seen. And I'll be honest, after first seeing the way he got up and the way he clutched, now I'm kind of connecting some loose dots here. It was Darrell Green Day. They did retire number 28, and it looked like the injury Darrell had on the punt return against Chicago, where he didn't break rib or anything. It was rib cartilage, which is still very painful. Yeah. And he grabbed and was doing it the same kind of way, so maybe there was a little symmetry there. But they have not said that it's cracked, it's broken, it's bruised, it's nothing.
But you said that he had a similar injury at LSU. right?
That's true.
In the same place, the very same spot?
I don't know, because they're not telling you what side it is, how many ribs, a rib, is it cartilage? Have you heard anything?
No, and all they're saying is that it's a rib injury, and he hasn't really been around or said. As soon as the game was over the other day, he was going out of the locker room, so you couldn't really tell him. But I mean, he was grabbing, and he was sitting on the bench. It looked like he was kind of grabbing the left side. They were looking at it, but all they've said. You're right. All they've said is rib injury. And look, I kind of like that things have been kind of under wraps with this organization, or right now. I mean, with Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, and they're keeping everything. And they've been honest, though. They said, look, he's not going to practice. He's in getting treatment. He's in the meetings, and the next step is the practice field. And Dan Quinn has said it from day one. You're going to be very, very careful with this. If he can't be himself and do what he has been doing or is expected to do on the football field, I don't think they're going to put him out there. They're not going to risk it. My gut says he's not going to play, and I thought that after hearing Quinn on Sunday and after hearing Mariota Sunday after the game as well, because it could just give him a week to rest, and then next week, then you go play the Giants, then you get into to Philly and the Steelers. So, yes, you want to play against Caleb Williams. I get it, and the NFL wants to see it. But this is a long-term deal for me, and I know they're going to be very, very careful with it.
Well, a couple things here. One, who cares? I mean, the first-round draft pick, and
right,
they're on different teams.
That's marketing.
You got defense. I mean, it's just like
that's irrelevant, right?
I think it's very irrelevant.
Nothing more than a marketing.
Yeah, but it is exactly that. That's what CBS is doing.
Two Heisman Trophy winners, blah blah. That's what they want. That's what they drum up every week. There's a storyline for every single game that they are promoting and pushing out there.
But where I was going to ask
like with Lamar,
next,
too.
What's that?
Lamar Jackson.
It was like with Lamar Jackson too. They weren't playing each other.
Right. Well, exactly. But what I wanted to say was with him being out, perhaps, does that mean he dresses and he's the number 2 in case Mariota goes down, or do they scratch him and they bring up the third team guy?
I think if he's out, if he's not able to start, I don't think you dress him. I just don't. I think you dress Driscoll. Say that 3 times fast, and he's the backup Sunday, and then you just make Daniels out.
So Driscoll dressing.
That's the one.
Who's the backup?
Driscoll.
Jeff Driscoll.
So, I mean, is he in town?
He's the emergency quarterback.
I mean, you got 2 first-round draft picks. Mariota, did he win the Heisman Trophy? He was amongst them. I think
he did.
But he was like, he's first-round draft pick. And, of course, you got Daniels. It's like, who cares who the number 3 guy is?
Go to Driscoll.
Well, the number 3 guys back in the old days was Russ Grimm, which kind of offended me. But then when I found out Russ actually played quarterback in high school, because I'm going, as a quarterback.
Got a feeling they ran the option. They ran the wishbone.
A lot of options.
Did you try to be the backup?
What's that?
Did you try? Did you try to be the emergency quarterback?
No, it was like, it's okay, guys. I'm over it. I mean, I went, the brilliant Pepper Rogers, I think I threw 1 pass. But it's a long story. The system I played in was designed for the quarterback at KU. And I every once in a while I go, what in the hell? I remember this. I had 2 plays. That was it. One was called, in other words, it was all based off of the quarterback getting Bobby Douglas, getting him on the edge where he could either run or pass. So, I'd take a crossover step like I was going to go block the defensive end, try to hook the defensive end to give Douglas the edge, and then he'd hand me the ball and I'd hit it, or it was just a straight off tackle play. It was the same goddamn play every time. And I look back on it, I'm going, it wasn't, a quarterback's offense, and me, I was just happy to be, out of town, out of Centray, I guess. But so I don't know how I got off on that tangent, but I did. Oh, I know the backup quarterback stuff. So yeah, eventually they let me throw a pass once, but I think it was incomplete. And anyway, a lot of water under the bridge. I hurt my arm. I had my arm. It's my shoulder. It's my shoulder.
George, what are you hearing about Chicago? Good, bad, indifferent?
They're a little worried about the defensive side. Don't forget they got a guy named Montez Sweat. Remember him? They're excited to face him. But the defensive front they're saying is pretty good. And they're not banged up as much as I thought on the offensive line. A couple guys limited. Allegretti was limited this week, but I think they're all going to be 100% fine. And I think that I don't think much changes, guys. If Mariota plays, we saw him with a couple design runs the other day, and after Daniels goes out and then they have those 2 or 3 design runs for Mariota, kind of in the press box, we're looking around like, are you sure you want to be doing this? You're down to your backup quarterback and you send this guy off running. He hasn't done much this year, and you're going to put him out there running. But I don't think much changes on the offensive side with Cliff Kingsbury. He says he's got a play sheet, plays that Mariota likes. He got plays with Daniels likes. Players have said that he is very good with meeting with quarterbacks throughout the week. You kind of go through your play sheet. What do you like? What do you don't like? So it sounds like they're going to be doing that this week in case he has to go. And I think that, the Bears have been playing better lately. All eyes have been on Caleb Williams, but I think the defense has played a little bit better, especially they're going to be very concerned with Montez Sweat there on the edge.
Well, based on what you're saying, that if Mariota, I've got to assume that Mariota is going to start and play this game. I think it's if they set the running back last week, Brian Robinson, if they sat him last week, I mean, he is a running back after all, and they do grow on trees. In fact, they grow on bushes, maybe even some flowers. I don't know, but my point is, if they sat him last week, what's the odds? Mariota is going to be the quarterback. Of course, it's all cagey because this goes way back into the beginning of football. So this makes Chicago have to prepare for 2 quarterbacks. So as long as nobody knows who's in and who's out, it's this old game of spy versus spy, so to speak. But it always gets down to who's there to kick somebody's butt. That's always seems like you got the freak plays that can change the scope of the game. But it really doesn't, I'm always thought about, the defense, but it's beyond my pay station. So why, I was a private. I knew it. I wasn't even a sergeant. Now you're getting into where you get in past the major, then the colonels and all that. Nah, I got nothing.
Well, that's why you brought in a seasoned veteran like Mariota.
Right. Yeah, that's
to A, groom the wonder kid, and B, come in because you know your stuff and you're ready and you're prepared. So I agree, John. It's got to be him. I'd be shocked if Jaden Daniels is in uniform and taking a snap.
Well, yeah, I would too. And, you think about Mariota and some of the guys that, were high-round draft picks and didn't seem to pan out,
right.
Didn't live up to, and yet you see him change. That's why I said there's no quarterback controversy. They start Mariota, though, and they play. I mean, I guess you get a real warm glow because you go, we're good. We got a real luxury here. We got a backup quarterback that could be starting for a lot of teams here.
He's good for
it. There's basically, as they say, there's nothing not to like here.
And I think, is it also that Daniels, because a lot of times, if the quarterback doesn't practice all week, it doesn't matter. You're in week 13, 14, he's a veteran. But does that affect as early in his career as he is? Can he go a whole week right now without practicing, even though we were in week 7 and he's been there since April or May? Does that go into their thinking at all, you think?
No, I don't think so. I think, basically he's had everything thrown at him, and he's already played, 4 or 5 6 games, right? 7.
6.
Well, he got knocked out of this last one, so it's basically total
6.
He's played 6 games. I think he's got a pretty good feel for the game. I think he's got a pretty good feel for what they want to do. And a lot of that goes back to Kingsbury, I think, and what he'll allow him to do. Because, I've said this, I tell Todd all the time, they do catch the rabbit quite often, actually. And some of the plays that he ran, particularly the one that looked like he got injured on, and everybody said you should have slid. Hey, the guy thinks he's going to score a touchdown. He ain't cutting the Jets at that point. He's going to keep trying to get into that end zone. So it is, it's like you got to live with it and you got to die by it. It's one way or the other. You never can have. But for the most part, and the way the game is played nowadays, I think that was just a fluke injury. Unless it is an aggravation of an old injury, that's not a good sign if that's the case.
Which is why I've got to believe they're also keeping us in the dark on that they're doing the bare minimum to say the kid's hurt. And he's hurt. We believe it's rib.
Bare minimum. That's exactly what's going on.
All right, George, we appreciate the time as always. You heading to the game?
I'll be there 4:25. Look, the 4:25 is better. It's better than flexing it to 8 o'clock because then he's so late. 4:25, it's okay. You have your morning, but the 8 o'clock is just late. That's just But I do think this team is going to be flexed. If they keep going this way, you're going to see this isn't going to be the last game that's flexed.
All right, George,
you keep flexing.
I'm going to go flex right now. No, I'm not. Anyway, George, thanks as always. We'll see you next week. Maybe we'll see what the schedule brings, but enjoy the rest of the week in this lovely fall weather.
It's great. Appreciate it, guys. Always love coming on. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, John, as we've been talking about over the years here, the money in professional sports is record levels across the books and all sports because, and you've said all along, and as you knew when you were a performer, a player, that it's all entertainment, right? And it says a lot about our society and a culture and what we value, because the money, and I don't begrudge the players at all. They are the performers, and they should get as much as they possibly can. But it's impacting the NFL at levels that are quite staggering. And what's fascinating, we've talked about the value of certain positions and how the rules have changed, and like running backs, dime a dozen now.
Pick one up at the pool hall
middle
Sunday
linebackers
morning.
Fall in the similar categories. So the prizes are your quarterbacks.
It's on the edge.
Your quarterbacks.
And all the way around.
O-line.
Outside of your offensive line, the offensive tackles, they're the critical mass.
You nailed it.
And then your pass rushers coming off the edge, and then your corners and your wide receivers.
There you go.
That's the game. Completely different game than it was 50 years ago. I've said, I keep telling people this. 50 years ago, the game was played horizontal. Now it's played vertical. And when I say vertical, I mean players are upright. There's no way these guys could play with the old rules and be padded for the games the way they are. They wouldn't last. They would last, 3, 4, 5 games. Their legs would be all beat to pieces. Because tacklers, like the late Pat Fisher, this guy understood physics, and he was well trained, and he had great fundamentals. You don't see that anymore. It's all 7-on-7. There's nothing really about tackling. It's just grabbing hold of the guy and hang on to him long enough, let somebody else catch up. Or if you can get him on the ground by yourself, that's fine. No complaints here. I get it. I'm just saying there's a huge difference between what you're seeing now and what used to be. Not that, like I said,
it was far.
And so it's more entertaining, if you will.
Yes, because they slanted the rules for the passing game, right? It's just like with the home run. Chicks love the long ball and the bomb and the high-flying antics and the passing game. You've seen that. I mean, it started back with Eric Coryell and all the way through to the iteration now where the rules are so slanted for the passing game. And it's not the same physical play, to your point, which is why you see guys wearing in the speed positions, and they call them the skill positions, right? They're wearing as little padding as they can get away
Hardly
with.
anything. Hardly anything.
And the salaries reflect that.
The pants are rolled up past the knees. It's like, I don't understand how the league lets them get away with it.
Well, they've got 2 guys with binoculars doing uniform patrol every game and finding players who are violating the code. Now, college football, when you look at these guys on college now, it's absurd. They've got their pants hiked up damn near to their thighs in the skill position.
I mean, shorts and shoulder pads.
It is crazy. And back to the 7-on-7 point, which there's 7-on-7 leagues, and it also is flag football, and so they've taken away the physicality of when you guys played the game, and it was I think the product was amazing. It was a better balance, and so it's funny. You see certain teams take the Baltimore Ravens, right? That they realized they went out and got Derrick Henry. And that guy is running the ball, because when you got the right mix of the pass and the run, man, what it does to a defense. And again, with the rules, typically teams that are high-flying passing offenses, they've got a nice run component, too, to give them a balance. It's very rarely you see the one-dimensional team that is hugely successful.
Well, yeah, and what you're saying, basically where I was going to take it to, that all that considered, football has become, and I think is by far the most popular sport in this country. Consequently, you can't get enough football. It's like Saturday Night Live. I need more cowbell. I need more football. I really could use some more football.
You got a fever and you need more football?
Yeah. The only prescription is more football. Exactly. So what I'm saying here is that I think it's a natural evolution in the direction that it's going to go, that the salaries have gotten a lot higher, and that what do you call it?
Well, the pie of revenue that's coming
growing.
in is,
it just keeps growing.
It's approaching $25 billion a year.
Yeah.
25. So let's take a look at some of these numbers here. And John, I do not want any tears at the end of this segment.
We're going to be crying.
Because when you
tears
see
of joy, sorrow,
when you see these numbers.
Well,
so let's take a look. Let's take a look at your quarterbacks here. All right, John. So all of this data is from Spot Track, which is an incredible website. They've been on top of this for years, and they have all of the contracts. And without, you can get really deep in the weeds when you're managing a salary cap and the guarantees versus non-guaranteed, and you hear. So all the numbers we're pulling are, this is the guaranteed amount of their contracts that they will get. Now, Deshaun Watson did have the record at $230 million, and what clearly is going to go down as one of the biggest heist in quite some time.
It is.
Sadly, he did tear his Achilles last weekend, so he's out for the season.
He's out.
Yeah.
I mean, he sat out one entire season. Last year he didn't play well and/or got hurt.
All of the above.
He wasn't. And so you're talking about waiting to go a third year, coming back from Achilles tenure. I mean, it's been in the league a lot longer than that, but I'm talking about with the Browns.
Right.
Coming back here. And no, I couldn't agree.
It's going to be one of the worst. So Dak Prescott had to beat him with $231 million with his big new deal. So this is just showing you, again, the top 6 of guaranteed money. Joe Burrow, $219.
I'm shocked. Mike Brown coughed up that much money.
Yeah, you were right.
He's not. They're from that same old school. Weeb Eubank is from the Paul Brown. He's coached with Paul Brown, I think, at wherever it was, the Great Lakes Naval, when they had football up there. But, they do not spend lavishly. But obviously he got, he's got religion somewhere.
Yeah, because a good young quarterback who has proven.
And Burrow is that guy.
Yeah, there's no
got
question.
The chop.
And, Lamar Jackson's $185 million is starting to look pretty good when you start.
Right, compared to the other guys.
And
he's he actually, you can make the argument, is a hell of a lot more accomplished than Prescott.
Well,
actually, of all the guys, he's the last one on what we're looking at here. I got to say, I'm really impressed with Burrow just because I watched him get the hell beat out of him and still took a team to the Super Bowl and got the hell beat out of him in the Super Bowl and still played well. I mean, to me, if he had the right people around him, I think that guy'd be pretty scary.
No question about it. No question about it. All right, so there's your quarterbacks. Now let's go to the O-line, and back to your point of. So here's your left tackle for Tampa Bay, Mr. Wirfs, at guaranteed money. Guaranteed money for these fellas. Your left tackle, your right tackle, left tackle, left tackle. Can you imagine what the Hogs back in the day? So
Jack Kent Cook would have got a night job to pay for everything.
Well, it's funny because in talking about this with Joe Jacoby and some of the other Hogs, that will never happen again. It can't and it won't because of the salary cap. And when you have guys that are that good, you can't keep them all on the same team. The math doesn't work.
Yeah. What do you mean with free agency?
John Riggins, right? With the numbers won't work. You have to say, which is why everybody, it's monkey see, monkey do. Get me the star-stud quarterback from there.
Right.
Get me a wideout. Get me a left tackle.
He's the only long-term guy on your team for the most part. Everybody else is fungible to a point. You'll pay more for some of the, like a left tackle that really is, you don't have to worry about.
He's protecting your biggest asset.
Exactly. So that makes perfect sense.
Okay, so now let's go. Let's take a look over here on. Let's go to the defense, right? And to your point, and you and I did not talk about this beforehand, but. It's all your pass rushers and your outside linebackers or your, the Chris Jones, the Christian Wilkins, the defensive end and defensive tackles, but it's people that can get to the quarterback, your rushers.
Yeah, you got like Bosa, he's 122 million. I mean, that's pretty hefty and he's a defensive end. You'd almost think a defensive tackle and defensive end an offensive tackle, defensive end, they would be very similar. But hell, there's $40 million that separates a tackle.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's closer to $30 million.
And if you look to the right where it says top 100 positional breakdown, and John, slide to your right a little bit. Slide to your right. There you go. We don't want to.
Okay.
And so in your defense, in the top 100 contracts, D lineman 43. Secondary, which is mainly cornerbacks and a couple of safeties, and then your outside linebackers.
Yeah, the cornerbacks and the safeties, I think would be in with the linebackers if you wanted to. Basically, the cornerbacks would be by themselves, and they're what brings that up, I think, in the secondary.
No question about it. All right, now let's go over to kickers.
Is that the next page?
That's your next page, John. Now, so Harrison Butker and Justin Tucker. Justin Tucker is just, it's stunning the career that this guy has had. I mean, you talk about a guy that
he's been around forever, and he can sing in the showers.
he's got that. He's
pretty good. Yeah, you can go in the shower there for more than just a shower.
Yeah,
and I just mean to hear him sing, folks. Okay, let's be perfectly clear.
What happens on your own time? But you see guys that. That's a pretty good gig at so his total guarantee, and look at the guys Butker and Tutker. Butker and Tutker. Let's go with Justin Tucker, Harrison Butker, and the teams that they play with, and how valuable when you got a guy. And it looks like the Commanders might have found a guy that's good for it.
And he stumbled in through the double doors, didn't he?
He stumbled in off the streets. All right, John, let's get to the running backs now.
I don't think
let's get to the running backs, and slightly higher than the kickers.
Right, but this is now you are at the bottom of the barrel here, right?
So Saquon Barkley just left the New York Giants to go to Philadelphia because he got $26 million, and nobody. When you watch the Giants, and they had the preseason HBO following them around, and they were like, we don't really think he's going to get that amount of money. $26 million guaranteed, which is it's chump change compared to these other positions that we are talking about. Christian McCaffrey at $24 million.
And that was last year. Was it last year or the year before when he reeled this in?
I believe 2 years ago.
Because I think he was the highest paid at one point in time.
He sure was. So he had set the new bar. Jonathan Taylor at the top, 26.5. But you go on down and you see the value of, and these are the stars.
Yeah.
These are the star running backs.
And I imagine how many years do you think those contracts run for? You know, it's not a 10-year contract.
No, those are
for them. The quarterbacks is a little different deal.
Yeah, but I'll bet that most of these running backs are 2 to 4 years.
So in 2 or 4, so they're I guess you can see that they make maybe somewhere between $6 and $8 million, the very top per year.
Probably more than that.
I thought McCaffrey was making like $16 million a year, but I don't think that must be bad information.
Well, it could be in the sense of, again, this is the total guarantee at their position, so he may only have like 2 years left.
Gotcha.
And he hasn't even played that this year.
He what?
He has not even played yet this year.
Yeah, he's made out of tissue paper.
And
he's injured, very injured.
Yeah,
he was that way with Carolina, wasn't he?
He sure was. Now, after digging around and doing a little snooping, John, I found the super smart guy, and let this be a lesson, boys and girls. Now here, if you go to the next one, this is what you do. Your last slide there, John. Your last slide there.
Okay.
Be a long snapper. Tyler Ott of the Washington Commanders. In his career, he's made $8.3 million, and he's going to make $1,685,000 this year. His cash.
Yeah.
Now, how many times is he on the actual field doing his job? And considering that Tress Way has barely punted this year, but
he's had to do a lot of snaps for touchdowns and field goals.
There you go.
So he gets it back. But you know what's kind of strange, and nobody ever thinks of this because these are the kind of positions you take for granted that are about as unglamorous as you can get. The deep snapper, right?
And as specialized as it gets.
But when the deep snapper hikes one over the punter's head or over the holder's head or off someplace, and you lose the game, I mean, you fall into that same category with the kicker. You know, he misses the big field goal at the end. He's got the goat horns every time.
Tyler's proven his bona fides. Yeah. He went to Harvard, so there you go. Super smart, good community guy.
I just didn't say super smart, and he is a good community guy.
And
that's the one thing I don't think I was a good community guy.
Coach said, and he plays teams.
Oh, of course he plays teams. That is teams. That's the epitome of teams, a deep snapper. Clearly what that is.
All right, so to finish up our bit on salaries and the enormity of money, let's take a look at the top 10.
All right.
The top 10 Washington, D.C. athletes. And let's see if the fans can play along here. So, all right, John, coming in at number 10, this is the Washington DMV. This is courtesy of the Washington Business Journal. Give them credit. and they did this little survey. At $15.5 million is Jonathan Allen of the Washington Commanders, who unfortunately is out for the year after, I believe, he tore his his pectoral muscle.
What I recall.
And right behind Mr. Allen is his teammate, Deron Payne, and he got his deal after Jonathan, so he got a little bit more. So he's at number 9.
What's he at, 16?
Yeah, he's at 16 and change. Then we go to Dorrance Armstrong, your free agent for the Washington Commanders, and he got dinged up as well, and so he is number 8.
Now these are across the board. So the bottom 3 of the top 10 are football players.
And coming in at 7, keeping that theme going,
4
is
football players.
Terry McLaurin, the wideout, who is
18.5.
yeah, he's good for it. Terry's been getting it done.
Yeah, from day one.
And then let's see, coming in after that. Okay, keeping the football theme alive, Samuel Cosme. He got a nice deal.
He did.
With a little over 21 mil.
That's interesting that he's actually getting paid more money as an interior lineman than, of course, now Payne and
Allen.
And Allen are both interior linemen now, but I know Allen used to play the edge, didn't he? He was a defensive end for a while.
Yeah, well, they were supposed to be the guys up the middle.
Right. But I'm just saying, well, you're right. They're defensive tackles, so.
Yeah.
But a guard making that kind of money, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
You'd think that'd be somebody like for a tackle, but we'll see. Maybe their tackles are making more.
Okay, after coming in number 5, John. All right, now we go hoops with Malcolm Brogdon of the Wiz, 22.5. Now, Malcolm, he was free agent just coming in, and the Wizards season starts tonight. And Malcolm actually is already out. He has he had surgery on his thumb, and
he's going to miss the opening.
He's going to miss the opening, and he's going to be out probably for a couple of weeks. And Malcolm bringing in the hoops at number 5. At number 4, Kyle Kuzma, and we're keeping Kyle's at 23.5 milli for the Wizards. Been with the team for the last number of years. He came from out west, and sadly, the Wizards are awful. They have been awful.
When they weren't awful? You got to go back to when they were called the Bullets. I think you did.
Pretty much. I mean, they made the playoffs 8-10 years, something like that.
But I mean, they're just squeak when they get in there.
It's sad.
I mean, maybe that's part of the problem. They go to camp and it's like, do you think we can make the playoffs? It's not like we're going to be champions. I'm just.
Well, out of 30 teams in the league, John, everybody has them. Last year was their worst record ever. I'm fairly certain.
Was it worse in the NBA?
It was their worst. I don't know if it was worse in the NBA, but they are predicted to be the worst out of 30 teams this year, and all the preseason prognostications for what it's worth.
I imagine you get a
So for Kyle, but the point being, the volume of money. So with Brogdon and Kyle right there, that's $46 million. And coming in at number 3, we got a Washington National, Patrick Corbin, at $25 million. Corbin's been a very solid pitcher here in these parts for quite some time. And next up on our hit parade, really keep it going, Mr. Rookie Jaden Daniels.
Rookie money is that much money?
Yep, he's got 25.06 and some change.
Well, do you have any idea what his total contract is?
Yeah, I can find that out. But remember, that's all slotted on the rookie scale, and it
right. But that's probably goes up every year, doesn't it?
100%.
So let's just say it's a 4-year deal. You're talking about he got $100 million for 4 years or 5 years.
That sounds about right.
I remember Sam Bradford. Do you remember him?
Yes.
He was the last one before they did. When they did the next CBA.
Right.
He was drafted, I believe, by Los Angeles, the St. Louis Rams, and he ended up playing in Philadelphia a little bit. Never real success. I remember his rookie contract for whatever reason was $52 million. Now, granted, that's probably close to 15 years ago now,
right.
I'm thinking.
I do recall that.
But that was his total. He will make that in 2 years, and I'm sure Bradford's contract was probably a 5-year contract or something like that.
Yeah, I recall that.
Yeah, it's just like it's
Coming in first on the hit parade here in D.C., John, and we don't have our drum roll.
John Riggins? No,
We said-
I'm not making that much money.
You're getting there. Jordan Poole, shooting guard for the Washington Wizards.
Okay.
Jordan's coming in at $29.651 million.
You can pick up a few checks.
So that's 3 players on the Wizards. So that's 46, another 30. So that's
one baseball player.
About $77 million for the Wizards' top 3 players. And I think we got to do better than last.
I'm trying to think.
30 teams.
Does anybody go to the games? I know some people go, but I mean their attendance got to be not good unless it's something like LeBron James is playing or something like
Well,
that.
it is, John, because the league is fairly popular, and you'll see a lot of energy in the first part of the building. See some of the newer players in the league coming in, some of the free agents. The Celtics are your defending champions. So a lot of different storylines that people come through. But yeah, Washington deserves better, should be better, but it is what it is.
I was trying to do the math in my head, but it would seem like basketball, of course, they do play, 82 games a year?
Yep.
But it's not, it is what it is. It's a grind. It doesn't make a difference what kind of a professional sport that you're in. But, when you look at, football and, you think that of salaries and, I would say as athletes go that football players get paid more, for lack of a better word, per capita, which relates to population to a certain extent, than really any other sport in this town. In other words, your football players are making the lion's share of the money.
17 games versus an 82-game season versus football's 53 players, NBA's 12, and baseball's 26, 25. It's all relative.
To a point, yes.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of TJRS. You got the Commandos and the Bears Sunday, 425.
425.
And we'll be checking in with you next week, John.
All righty. Well, for Todd and me, El Riggo, and we're out. Yes.